Hi guys, Merry Christmas to you all. I thought I'd do another little video before 2019 finishes and 2020 begins. 2020 is going to be an amazing year, guys. I'm going to do a video on that very subject very soon. And I've got loads of other ideas for other videos too, like astrology Mayan signs as well, which I'm going to do probably before the 2020 video. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to do my second video in my second series, which is Compatibility and Guidance for the Life Path 2. As usual, if you're unsure of your core numbers, I'm going to put a link to my video on how to work out your core numbers in the description box. And I'm also going to put in the description box links to all my accounts on social media, Facebook, Instagram. So if you're on any of those social media platforms that I'm going to show you at the end, feel free to connect with me on any of those platforms, or all of them if you want. So let's move on. Right, so Life Path 2, as you guys already know, your chosen mission for this lifetime is to work with issues around balancing your responsibility to others with your own needs. That's really important for the Life Path 2s, that they don't just look after everyone else in their lives, that they look after themselves too. Very, very, very important for the Life Path 2. Right, so moving on. Okay, so as a Life Path 2, you're here to serve, cooperate and work as part of a team, to develop excellent social skills, to be a mediator, advisor, counsellor and helper of all your friends and family. And to make relationships a major part of your life. Now, because if this is your life path, you're going to find those three things: to serve and cooperate and working as part of a team, making relationships a major part of your life, quite a difficult thing for you. If it's your expression number, this will be your talent. So you'll be really good at working in groups. You'll be excellent at working as part of a team, and you'll have excellent social skills. And if it's your soul urge, it's something that you really want. So you really want to work as part of a team, and it's your heart's desire to work with others and have amazing social skills to serve others and to help other people. But for this is your life path. So if you're a Life Path 2, you find all of these things quite difficult to achieve. Otherwise, it wouldn't be your life path. So if you are a Life Path 2 or a Life Path 11 2, mostly a Life Path 2, you may find it a struggle working with others, cooperating in groups. You could be either extremely shy and find it difficult to communicate with others. You could be possibly sometimes taken advantage of by others, or have little interest in socializing. And these are the things you're here to develop. So you need to ask yourself some questions if you are a Life Path 2. You need to, do you work alongside others in your life, in your career, or in your leisure time? Ask yourself that question. Do you work with others in your life as a Life Path 2? If so, how could you do it better? Remember, it's your life path to work alongside others. So it's everything for you to achieve this. So how could you serve and cooperate better if you already work in groups and if you already work as part of a team? It doesn't have to be your career. It could be in your leisure time. It could be in your life in general. If not, if you are one of those Life Path 2s that are struggling on your path and you don't really work with others in any capacity, how can you create opportunities to work with others? These are major questions that the Life Path 2 needs to ask themselves and answer, and maybe set goals and targets for yourself to achieve these things, together with assessing your current relationships. How deep are they? How can you deepen your connection to the key people in your life if they're not already deep? I mean, if you're a Life Path 2 that's really advanced and you're way down your line, you may already work brilliantly with people and you may be already achieving your life path. So ask yourself these questions, guys. These are key questions for a Life Path 2 to help them develop. And how can you create opportunities to build close relationships? Okay, that's something, these are really, really important questions for you to think on, guys. You also, as a life path too, you're always counted on to make things happen from the background. You're not into being the star. You don't want to be up front. You don't want to be the leader. You don't want to be all the bells and whistles. You want to be the one being the person in the background making things happen. So you need to ask yourself again, because this is your path, do you help, serve or support anyone in your life? Again, it can be in any way part of your life. It could be in your leisure time, in your career time, in your life in general. I mean, if you do, how can you serve and support better to make things happen? Okay, how can you serve and support better to make things happen? Because as a life path too, you may often find this quite difficult. If not, if you don't serve or support anyone in your life, how can you create opportunities to serve and support others, to take yourself further down your life path and help you develop in this lifetime? You also need to consider yours and other needs equally, and not just think of others and let yourself burn out. That's really important for a life path too. You need personal power and know the difference you make. Okay, don't let people walk all over you. Don't let people push you aside and take credit for your hard work. You need to be assertive enough to ensure that other people respect you and respect your boundaries. Okay, so it's important that you consider yours and other people's needs equally, that you gain personal power and know the difference you make, and be assertive enough to ensure others respect your boundaries. Because sometimes your two energy can do too much for others, and you can be taken advantage of to the point where you're overworked and treated a bit like a doormat. So how can you look after your own needs as much as you look after others? Okay, how can you do that? Have a think over your life. Do I look after my own needs, or do I put my own needs aside for others? Okay, and think of the impact that has on you. If you find that difficult because maybe low self-esteem, I want you to make a list of all the positive qualities that you have, all the positive things that you do, and how those positive qualities make a difference, because you need to realize your value, life path twos. Realize your value. Make a list of all the great things that you are, all the great qualities that you have, and how they make a difference to other people's lives, so that you know that in here. Okay. And affirmations, really important, especially for a shy and retiring life path two. I am worthy of respect and consideration. Your needs are as important as anyone else. And maybe say that as well. My needs are as important as anyone else. I am worthy of respect. I am worthy of consideration. Say that to yourself daily. Okay, that's really important for you life path twos. Okay. So as I've said previously, life path twos can be a little on the timid side. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes people in your life may take credit for your work, treat you like a doormat, and, dump on you a lot. And you often just take it. And you can also be a bit too trusting, a bit naive, and easily taken for a ride at times. If this is you, how have you taught these people to treat you like this? Because it's you that's taught them to treat you like this. It's a hard one to come to terms with, but they treat you how, this sounds very Jerry Springer-esque, but they treat you how you allow them to treat you. So how can you now teach them to treat you with respect, but obviously do that appropriately? You can demand respect, but in a not so good way. How can you appropriately teach others to treat you with the respect that you as a life path two deserve? Okay. If you often say yes when you would rather say no, pluck up the courage. Start saying no. When you need to put yourself first and you've been saying, oh, all right, then I'll do it, even though you really don't want to, or you're really too tired, or you really feel that you should look after your own needs for once, say no. You know, people will respect you more if you're not always there for them. You know, they say, oh, you always need to be there for me. But people will respect you more for having boundaries and keeping to those boundaries. What could you do to pamper yourself, Life Path 2? You are worth it. You know, it's not just about you serving and helping others. It's about you helping yourself, pampering yourself sometimes, because you're worth looking after. That's really important. Keep those affirmations in mind. I am important. I am worth the best, and I come first. I want you to say that every day. Okay? Right, but there's only 2 Life Path 2s, and well, really there's one Life Path 2, and the other Life Path 2 is a slightly higher vibration because it's actually a Master 11 2. Okay, really, really important that we differentiate between the two. There is only one Life Path 2, which is very different to all the other life paths, okay, because the other life path is an 11/2. So the 11 is actually more important here. So I'm going to start with the Bona fide 20/2, the only real life path 2 in numerology. Okay, so as I've said before in my previous Life Path 2 video, because it's the most significant sub-lesson and it's closest to the slash on the left-hand side, I'm going to start with the 0. The 0 is not a number energy in itself. It strengthens the 2 energy and makes it even more intense. And it bestows on you some added intuition and perceptions. So you're able to pull ideas from source that much easier if you are able to access your intuition and your perceptions. So if you are a positive 20/2 and you're really slamming down your path and doing a brilliant job, you work brilliantly as part of a team, you have excellent social skills, everyone goes to you for help and support and counsel, you've got added intuition, so you know by just looking at someone how they're feeling and what they need, which is really important. It's an important element of social skills. You have added perception, you could be quite empathic, which means you read the emotions of others. And these abilities assist you to read and understand people. And like I just said, to know exactly what others need. And you have a healthy balance, as I've been going on, between looking after yourself and others. So a positive 22 works amazingly in a team. They work brilliantly for others. They can advise others, counsel others. They use their intuition, their perception to help others more, to know exactly what others need. But on the other side of the coin, they have that ability to know when it's time to look after themselves. Okay, it's not all about other people. Okay, so it's most important for you as a 20/2 that you listen to your intuition and not second guess your intuition with your logical mind. No overthinking. If your intuition says it, then it's right. You know, your intuition is never wrong. Your intuition is never wrong. Okay. So things you need to ask yourself if you want to come down that path of a Life Path 2 better is, do you treat others with compassion, consideration and empathy? You need to ask yourself that question. Do you treat others with compassion, consideration and empathy? You may with some people and not with others. Have a think. Why not? Why do you not treat some people or all people with compassion, consideration and empathy? It's something for you to really consider as a Life Path 2. How could you change this if you don't? You know, maybe it's a case of thinking about what your core beliefs are and understanding them, and that will help you then to treat people and to treat others with more compassion, consideration and empathy. If you do treat others with compassion, dear, oh dear, do others treat you with compassion, consideration and empathy? Really be honest with yourself here. Do others treat you well? Okay. If not, how could you change that? How can you teach others to treat you with that respect that you deserve as a life path 2? Do you look after yourself as much as you look after others? Because if you don't, people will pick up on that and they won't look after you either. You've got to look after yourself first. You've got to consider yourself first, because when you do that, others will follow. They will just read it in your energy and they will know you are a person with boundaries, that you are not to be walked on and you are to be considered. Okay, sub-lessons of the 11-2. Now, really, this is a Master 11 life path, but because it is really an underlying vibration or higher vibration of the 2, I wanted to put this in my video for the life path 2, but it'll also be in the Master video as well. Okay, so you get double bubble on this one. So if you're a life path 11-2, you have double the need in the double 1 to create something unique, new and innovative with confidence. But you don't just do this, you know, the normal, or should I say average life path 2, they're there to create teams or to be in a team for the people around them. But if you're an 11, you're going further than that. You're thinking global, okay? You're thinking past the people that you speak to every day. It's a higher vibration of the 2, okay? So you have double the need to be a leader, to create something new and innovative with confidence. You're an illuminator. You bring a new message to mankind, exposing the reality of a situation and being a catalyst for change to make things better for the world. You also, as an 11, because the veil between you and the spirit world as a master number is thinner, like the 2202, you have added intuition and perception, if used correctly, will assist you to channel that unique vibration. Because remember, these ideas that we get, they don't come from in here, guys. We like to think they come from our mind. They do not. They come from source. And when you vibrate at the right level, those ideas will come to you. They will come through into your mind, and then you will be able to express those to the world. So are you, before I move on, if you're amazingly positive, a life path 11 that's going down their road very strongly, which is very, 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 very difficult. Most people don't hit their Master 11 energy until later on in life, 50s and older. If you are younger, or even if you are over 50 and you are slamming down that life path 11, you listen to your inner knowing and intuition. You know, that's all you listen to. You are able to balance your responsibility to others with the responsibility to care for your own being, your well-being. You already take care of yourself as well as others. You already consider your own needs with the same balance that you do for others. You know when to step in, to illuminate, to counsel, to help, and then you know when it's time to step out and take a well-earned rest. Okay, that's a high vibrational 11-2. Are you listening? These are the questions you need to ask yourself if you are an 11-2. Are you listening to your inner knowing? Are you? Are you meditating daily? Are you second guessing your intuition, or are you really, really listening to it and acting on it? That's an important question you need to ask yourself as an 11-2. It's especially important for the life path 2 to meditate and connect with their inner knowing and channel that illuminating, innovative message to mankind from source. So it's vitally important that as 11, you're doing that. If you say yes when you don't want to, then stop, guys. Even if people get annoyed with you and they're a bit shocked, doesn't matter. Stop doing it. Do it respectfully. You don't have to have a go at them and say, no, I ain't doing that, stuff off or F off, or however you like to talk. Respectfully. No, I don't really want to today. And know when it's time to look after yourself. Say no sometimes. Being a yes man doesn't help you in any way, to be honest. Are you considering your own well-being and saying no when it's needed? Okay, vital question. Affirmation, lots for the life path 2. I am good enough and my message is important. I am good enough and my message is important. Now, all those affirmations from the previous pages, guys, write them all down. I want you to say them to yourself daily. And remember, only say yes when you've got the energy and the resources and the wherewithal and you want to. If you don't and you feel tired and you feel you've done enough, have the respect for yourself to say, nah, not today. I'm going to take a rest today. People will respect you more and you will go down your life path too much easier, and you will achieve your life path too much easier, and you will be much happier. Trust me. Okay, compatibility. Okay, this is an important subject that I find a lot with people. They're really desperate to know whether they are compatible with the person that they are with. The thing is with compatibility is all numbers can be compatible if you understand the other person and you're willing to understand where they are coming from and work with them. Now, with some life paths, that's easy because you're similar enough for you both to be able to understand each other and have an excellent relationship. With some other life paths, there's more learning involved and you have to learn to understand that other person. And if you want to develop really strongly, it's good to go be in a relationship with someone that maybe isn't compatible with your life path. If you want to gain a lot of learning and development, it could be a rocky road and you'll have a lot of learning to achieve, but it'll be worth it because that's what life's all about. It's all about learning and evolving and getting better and getting to the point where you're so evolved that you don't have to incarnate in this world anymore. Okay, so if you want to find out about your partner's life path and their compatibility to you, or you just want to understand your partner better because things are a bit shaky between you at the moment, and that doesn't just mean love partnerships, that can be friendships as well, members of your family, your best friend, or maybe assess someone, if you know their birthday, somebody that you don't really get on with, and have a think, what is it about them that really grates on me? You know, you can really assess yourself and other people in your life using compatibility. It's not all about the love thing, although it does seem to be the most important thing for most people, as I've noticed. So if you're a solar, and we mustn't forget, life path, expression number, birthday number, they all have relevance in compatibility because they're all a part of you. But really the main thing when you're with somebody that you want to spend your life with is the soul urge number. That is important because the soul urge is what you really want. It's about wanting the same things. So if you're with somebody that has the same or a compatible soul urge number, it's more likely that you will find your relationship with them a lot easier than you may do with someone with an incompatible or different soul urge number. Anyway, I'm going to stop yabbering and get on with it. So if you're a 2 soul urge energy, that needs relationships more than any other number. The soul urge 2 just wants relationships. That's all, that's the major part of their life. You desperately want connection and emotional intimacy. You're loyal, you're committed, and you often put others' needs above your own. Boundaries are important, or you can end up exhausted and walked all over. Your soul urge is empathetic. You absorb the energy and feelings of others as if they were your own. So if you're with somebody that likes to argue, you're going to struggle if you're a soul urge 2, okay? Because you don't want conflict. Your soul urge 2 wants connection and love. They do not want conflict, okay? You're a peacemaker and you avoid conflict. Your need for one-to-one relationships may mean you can sometimes be a bit possessive and jealous. So if you're a soul urge 2 and relationships are all you want in life and connection and love is your most important thing, it can make you at risk of being a bit possessive and jealous at times, but it's just because it matters a lot to you, okay? So soul urge 1's compatibility with the 2 can be a shaky one. But again, it's possible if you're willing to understand each other and work with it. So your compatibility, the soul urge one's compatibility in relationships depends how their soul urge number is being achieved in other areas of their life. So if a soul urge one is achieving their need to be a leader and their want to create and be unique, if that soul urge is being achieved in their life, then that will improve their ability to have a relationship with someone else, because it's not just your ability to love someone, it's the other person's ability to love someone too. And the one soul urge is very, very affected by whether or not they are going down their path, okay, as a soul urge one. So the soul urge one will always want to lead in love. They'll want to be the one that makes a lot of the decisions and the one in control. Now the two can be quite good with that. They like to lead from behind. So the soul urge two will be okay with the soul urge one wanting to take control. In fact, that might actually make the soul urge two feel more comfortable that the soul urge one wants to be the leader. But his or her need for independence also means they need enough freedom to go down their path. This can be where the life path, the soul urge two, can get quite possessive and jealous if they feel that the soul urge one isn't being attentive enough to their needs. But the soul urge two that understands this will be able to avoid that possessive, jealous quality, because they understand that the soul urge one does need that time and freedom to pursue their own goals and objectives. The soul urge one also may struggle with the soul urge two, because they want their relationships to be like exciting all the time and full of energy and full of change. Which the soul urge two just wants tenderness and connection. So this can be a little bit of a sticky one between the two soul urges. But again, if the soul urge two understands the one's need for things to be a bit different and exciting, and the soul urge one understands the two's need for connection and love and tenderness, then there's no reason why these two soul urges can't work well together. But the numbers that are most compatible with the soul urge one generally are the 4, the 8 and the 9. Again, it doesn't mean that other numbers can't be compatible, but they're just the easiest. You know, if you want an easy life in your love life, meet up and get together with a soul urge 4, 8 or 9. The least compatible, or the soul urge numbers that you would have to learn the most from, are the 6 and the 7. Okay, but you know, again, all soul urges are compatible if you take the time to understand each other. Okay, right, soul urge 2 with the soul urge 2. Now the soul urge energy needs relationships more than any other number, as I've already said. So 2 life path 2, I keep saying life path, I'm so used to saying it. 2 soul urge 2s together can have an amazing, really deep connection and a very emotional connection. They are both extremely committed to each other, but you must ensure that both of you are giving and receiving in equal measure, because remember, the soul urge 2s can give too much. So are you both giving to and receiving to each other in equal measure? You've got to keep that in mind. If you're both soul urge 2s, are you both putting the same amount of effort into the relationship as each other? You also, another potential issue that you guys need to understand if you're both soul urge 2s is you're an emotional sponge for each other. So if one of you is feeling a bit rubbish, the other person will feel it and match that energy. And on the other hand, if one of you is feeling really loving and happy, the other one's going to match that energy too. So it works both ways, okay? You both avoid conflict though, and you both avoid, you know, having to deal with issues. So issues in your relationship may never be really settled because you both avoid the subject. And that's something that you guys really need to think about. There are ways to deal with issues without it being a conflict or a stressor. So always take time to talk to each other about anything that is going wrong, as well as the things that are going great, and to make sure the issues are sorted between you as a couple and they're not pushed under the carpet. And take care to avoid extreme jealousy and exclusivity in your relationship. You know, that you're so intense as a couple, you can end up extremely jealous of everyone else around you and end up just you two in together and not allowing anyone else in, and being extremely jealous when either of you talks to someone else. You know, that's unhealthy. You do need, remember, as a soul urge 2, to work alongside others as a team. So it's great to have a really tight connection and be really loving and connected, but make sure that you are dealing with issues in your life, and make sure that you are allowing other people in, okay? And that you're dealing with issues, and that you understand that you are an emotional sponge for each other. This understanding will help you both to understand each other and have a better relationship. Okay, soul urge 2 with the soul urge 3. Now, you already know that the soul urge 2 energy really wants togetherness. They want connection. Love is the most important thing in their life. And they can be possessive and jealous, which can be a bit of a sticky wicket with a soul urge 3. So the soul urge 3's compatibility, again, they struggle in relationships, and it depends whether the other person shares their creative vision of life, okay, and their urge for spontaneity and fun. Unfortunately, the 3 soul urge often looks around for excitement elsewhere if their current relationship isn't wild and passionate enough. So the soul urge 2 and 3 must take care to make sure that their relationship is always fresh and exciting, to keep the soul urge 3 interested, really, so that they're always connected as a couple. Because of this, the soul urge 3 may have different partnerships in their lifetime. They may not be as committed as a soul urge 2. They have the potential to go outside of the relationship if the relationship itself is getting a bit samey. And this can make the soul urge 2, they feel unloved because the soul urge 3 is maybe socializing with other people. They can make the soul urge 2 feel a bit unloved at times, but it's just because the soul urge 3 needs excitement, they need change, they need fun, they need socialization, okay? So for the soul urge 2 and the soul urge 3 to work, the 3 needs to consider the soul urge 2's need for love and make sure they're attentive and make sure they're loyal to them. And the soul urge 2 needs to understand that the soul urge 3 likes a bit of fun and excitement. They're going to want to go out and socialize, maybe with different people at times. And again, it's about understanding each other. Okay. Right. So the numbers most compatible with the 3 soul urge is normally the 7, 5 and 6. Now, that's not to say that the soul urge 2 and 3 cannot have a good relationship. They can. Again, you just need to understand each other's needs and be willing to be there for each other's needs at the end of the day. But the easiest relationship for a soul urge 3 is the 7, the 5, the 6 and the 9, because the 9's compatible with everyone. And the least compatible is another soul urge 3. You'd be surprised, but if you've got the same, if you're a soul urge 3 and the other person has the same soul urge, normally that would be a good thing. But for the soul urge 3, it can be a bit of a sticky wicket because both of you end up going off in different directions. But what can help you to be more compatible with another 3 is to share their creative vision, as I've said right at the beginning here. If you've got 2 soul urge 3s that have the same creative vision, their compatibility will be better because they'll share passion with each other. They'll probably share friendship groups. They'll socialize together. So the least compatible is normally the 3 and the 5, because in general, the soul urge 2 isn't keen on the 3 and the 5 energy because they're normally quite, you know, they can be uncommitted to relationships, and soul urge 2s desperately need that commitment. They want that deep love. They need that. Okay. And the 3 and the 5 can sometimes fall short there. But again, if you work together and you understand each other, it's perfectly possible. Soul urge 2 with the soul urge 4. Okay, so remembering that the soul urge 2 needs connection and love, the soul urge number 4 will always be committed and loyal. This is good for a soul urge 2 because the 4s care so deeply for the well-being of their family and their community. They'll look after a soul urge 2, and they can be a very, very close and loving relationship. For a soul urge 4, love is about strength and creating a safe, secure place to grow and develop as a couple. You know, 4s need, a soul urge 4 needs that security. They need that foundation. They like to have a relationship that makes them feel safe and secure. And the soul urge 2, their life is relationships. So they can have a really passionate relationship that won't be so difficult to achieve. So the soul urge 4 is about strength and creating a safe place to grow and develop. The 4 is a provider who will likely attract people who need to be supported. This could be a sticky wicket. If a soul urge 2 is a bit needy, the soul urge 4 can be a bit sort of over supportive and end up being a bit of a fixer to the soul urge 2. And the soul urge 4 is likely to attract people that need a lot of support. So the 4 can be vulnerable to be taken advantage of in relationships, but so can the 2. You know, you're both at risk of being taken advantage of. So, you know, if you both understand that about each other, you know, you're not going to take advantage of each other, are you? Or are you? You know, that's something to consider. If you're a soul urge 2 and you're with a soul urge 4, do you take each other for granted? How could you change this? Okay, it's important for the 4 to keep a balance, okay, between himself and him or herself looking after themselves and the other person. Be careful of expressing these tendencies. The numbers most compatible with the 4 are the 1, the 6 and the 8. Oh, and the 11 too. And the least compatible is the 3 and the 5, because the 3 and the 5 aren't secure enough for the 4. The 4 needs the nurturing and the security and of the 1, the 6 and the 8 and the 11, most definitely. But the 3 and the 5 is always a bit of a sticky wicket for a soul urge 4, because the 3 and the 5 aren't going to be the ones to give the soul urge 4 that security that they desire. But yeah, you know, if the soul urge 2 and the soul urge 4 are a good pairing, and they don't, it's not a difficult relationship. It's not something where they both have to learn a lot. They can be a very good pairing. And again, soul urge 2 and soul urge 5, you can see straight away the soul urge 2 wants commitment, and they want to be loved, and they want to be, you know, they want to be in a group. They can sometimes do too much for others. And the soul urge 5, they find all relationships difficult. So committing to a relationship is difficult because they like change. They often quickly lose interest and desire to move on to the next thing, which can leave the soul urge 2 heartbroken. So the soul urge 5, though, they need a partner who allows them that freedom, and that can be quite difficult for a 2 because they can be quite possessive, and the 5's need for freedom can make the soul urge 2 feel quite insecure and often unloved by a soul urge 5. The confines of a relationship for a soul urge 5 can be difficult. It can prove too much for them. But if the 5 understands the need of a soul urge 2, and they want to settle down and they want to commit, there's no reason that they can't have a strong long-term relationship with the soul urge 2. But until the 5 is in that place where they want to commit and they want to make their relationship an important part of their life, this is going to be a very, very difficult pairing. Okay, but when the soul urge 5 is ready to commit, You know, they can have a great relationship. They're both very social people. They'll both enjoy their leisure time together. Okay, but the five's most compatible numbers are actually the 3, the 5, the 7, and the 11. And the least compatible is the 2 and the 4, because the 5 does not give the 2 and the 4 the security they need, especially in the early stages. That's something that the 5 will maybe develop later in life, or maybe never develop that tendency. So keep that in mind if you're a soul urge 2. If you're in a relationship with a soul urge 5 and you do feel that they don't commit to you well enough, that's why. Okay. The compatibility of the soul urge 2 with the soul urge 6. This should be really good. So the soul urge 6 is caring. They're a generous partner. They have a lot of love, and that's just what the soul urge 2 wants. They're romantic and loving. They have an innate understanding of what their partner is feeling, which is amazing for a soul urge 2. If I say life path again, I'm going to eat my t-shirt. They're committed and they're prepared to work hard at a relationship, which is what a soul urge 2 really wants. The 6 needs a partner who wants a long-term partnership, and the soul urge 2 is happy to oblige. They want a long-term partnership. They want the connection that the 6 wants, but they can hold the domestic fort. The thing is, the 2 and the 6 both like relationships, and they can both be the one that like to hold the domestic fort. They're both not necessarily big career people. They both like the home and the comfort and the love of home. So where that's concerned, they have quite a loving and caring family life. But when it comes to career and bringing money in, that might be a little bit of a difficult proposition for you two as a couple. The 6 must be aware that partnering with a 2 who needs fixing can be a difficult one, because then they'll end up ignoring their own needs. But the 2's the same, you know. If the soul urge 2 gets together with a needy 6, and a soul urge 6 gets together with a needy 2, they both have the potential to ignore their own needs for the other partner. But if you understand that about each other, you can both look after each other's needs. You know, you understand that you can both give a bit too much, but that can be a good thing, because you'll know that about each other. You know, this is going to be a very intense and very loving relationship. Numbers most compatible with the soul urge 6 is the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 9. Least compatible is the 1 and the 8, because the 1 is very task orientated, and so is the 8. And the 6 and the 2 really want that connection and that love. Okay, so again, the 2 and the 6 are quite a nice pairing. Okay, the only problem is you could get a bit too intense with each other, but you know, you can work that out if you understand and listen to this video and you understand each other's needs and how similar you both are. You'll be fine. Okay, the 2 with the 7. Okay, so the 7 soul urge is only compatible with partners that understand their need for solitude and their need to, you know, sometimes be a bit disconnected. This can be a bit of a difficulty for the soul urge 2, because the soul urge 2 always needs to be connected. And the soul urge 7 can sometimes fall short of that, because they want to, you know, the soul urge 7, they want to develop their spirituality. They want to research. They want to learn. They like to be on their own. They like to research and ruminate and meditate and understand themselves. And this can sometimes make the soul urge 2 feel a little bit neglected at times. So close relationships for the soul urge 7 can be a little bit of a difficult one. Emotional intimacy doesn't come naturally to a 7, and that's all the 2 wants. They want connection. They want emotional intimacy, and the 7, the soul urge 7, can find that difficult. And their need for solitude is great, and it can sometimes make the soul urge 2 feel a bit lonely. They dislike people who are too needy. So the soul urge 2 needs to be careful that they're not being too needy in the relationship. They need their relationship to offer mental stimulation to keep them interested, to be honest. And the numbers most compatible with the soul urge 7 is the 4, the 5, the 7, and the 11. Least compatible are the 3 and the 6. Okay, so the 2 is somewhere there in the middle. But I think unless you understand, if you're a soul urge 2, unless you understand the soul urge 7, or the soul urge 7 understands the soul urge 2, this can be quite a difficult relationship. It's something that you definitely need to both learn a lot from each other and understand each other in order to be able to stay together. Okay. The 2 with the 8. So the 8 soul urge is compatible in relationships. It depends whether the soul urge 2 shares their success, their vision to succeed. Okay, so the soul urge 2 would be great at supporting, at being the supporting person if the soul urge 8 wants to succeed in life. That's what the 2 is all about, service. And they would be quite happy to help the soul urge 8 to succeed in life. They're able to offer support. But the soul urge 2 must also offer the soul urge 8 freedom for them to achieve that success. And because the soul urge 2 can be quite possessive, the soul urge 8 can struggle to achieve the freedom they need to achieve the success that they need from their soul urge. The 8 puts their career first, and this can be difficult for a soul urge 2. And romantic relationship they put second. So a relationship with a 2 then can be potentially difficult, as the 2 is going to get more needy and feel more unloved, which is again going to be difficult for the 8 to deal with, because they don't really want a needy person to look after. They want someone that can support them in their success. But you know, think about it. If you're a soul urge 8, what does money and fame and success mean if you don't have love or someone to share it with? That's something important for the soul urge 8 to really consider. Many people want to be with an 8 soul urge because they're quite magnetic. They draw people in with their charisma. And this can be quite difficult for a soul urge 2, for the soul urge 8 having all this attention. The soul urge 2 can get quite possessive about this. But again, if the soul urge 2 understands that the soul urge 8 is charismatic and people are drawn to them, they can maybe chill out about that a little bit. So if you are in a relationship, soul urge 2, soul urge 8, and that is an issue, try understanding that the soul urge 8, they attract people, deal with it. You know, you've just got to trust them and be a little bit less possessive, because the more possessive you are as a soul urge 2, you will push the soul urge 8 away. Okay, that you know, there's no give or take about it. You know, don't be too possessive. You've got to understand they need freedom. Okay, otherwise you will push them away. So the numbers actually that are most compatible with the soul urge 8 are the 4, the 8, and the 22. They're more business orientated people, more task orientated people. Least compatible numbers are the 3 and the 5, because they just don't give the 8 the security they need to succeed. So the 2 is somewhere there in the middle. And it, again, like any relationship, it's somewhere thing where you have to understand and work together in order to make it work. Oh, in order to make it work. I apologize. Just burped on my video. Right, moving on. Your 2 soul urge energy needs relationships, and the 9 will give you that. Okay, the 9 soul urge is compatible in most relationships. They're caring, they're compassionate, they have a lot of love to give, which is amazing for the soul urge 2. They're open to the needs of others, the soul urge 9, which is important for the soul urge 2. They're flexible, they're interesting company. The 9 can sometimes be a bit cold and distant, and often be a bit condescending, often believing themselves to know better what the other person needs. So they can be a bit, for want of a better word, up themselves. They think they know better than the other person, so they can be a bit condescending. They can also be a little bit distant and cold, which is upsetting for the soul urge 2, because they always want love. They always want connection. They always want depth of experience. But they need to understand that the soul urge 9 can be a little bit distant at times, and they might focus more on helping the world rather than helping the people closest to them. Really important for a soul urge 2 to understand that. So learning to be a listener will certainly help the 9 soul urge to get on with a soul urge 2. The soul urge 9 is learning to be a listener. So depending on where they are down their path, your partner may be a good listener. He or she may not be a good listener, but it's definitely something that they are working towards. The 9 can often be taken for granted in a relationship because they are very much a fixer. They can fall into the trap of being a fixer. So it's important for the soul urge 9 not to get together with a needy soul urge 2, because they will fall into the trap of being a bit of a fixer. Okay, and the soul urge 2 can be a bit of a server and a fixer too. And this could work well for the pair of you, or it could not be that good for the relationship. But they're both loving people. They both want connection, whereas the 9 can be a little bit distant at times, but if the 2 understands that, they'll be fine. The numbers most compatible with the 9 are actually the 3, the 6 and the 7, and another soul urge 9. Least compatible are the 4 and the 8, because they're more distant and they're more task orientated. So soul urge 2 with the soul urge 11. Your soul urge 2 energy needs relationships. We already know that. But the soul urge 2 finds relationships a little bit difficult at times, and their compatibility will depend on the other person or the soul urge 2's patience and understanding of the 11's physical quest. Physical, spiritual quest. Now, the 11 has a lot to achieve in this world, and they will sometimes have to disconnect from the relationship in order to do their own thing, in order to do what they need to do in this lifetime. And the soul urge 11 is very much about wanting to bring a spiritual message that is a catalyst for positive change. So there will be times where the soul urge 11 will need the freedom and independence to be able to pursue that. And it's important that the soul urge 2 allows that, because if they're too possessive, they will stop the soul urge 11 from doing what they need to do, and this could break the relationship up and cause unhappiness. So one of the missions, because 11s find relationships difficult, one of the missions for the Master 11 is to learn lessons relating to maintaining happy and healthy, successful relationships. So the 11 has a difficult time with most other soul urge numbers in holding a relationship together, but it is something that they need to achieve. And the soul urge 2 can be very, very, very important in helping them to achieve that important lesson, or it could completely go the other way and it could end in disaster. But the 2 and the 11 have a lot of potential to do well and be an amazing couple. Again, if you both understand each other. The 2 needs to understand the 11's need for freedom to pursue their spiritual quest, and the 11 needs to understand the 2's need for connection and love. And if you understand this, you can both do very well together. The 11 is most compatible with the 1, the 2 and the 22. So, they're potentially in a really good relationship. Least compatible, as usual, the 3 and the 5, because the 3 and the 5 will not give the 11 the love and the security and the space that they need. Okay. Soul urge 2 with the soul urge 22. Again, like the soul urge 11, the soul urge 22 wants to achieve something great. Okay, they're here to change the world, or they want to change the world in some way. So the soul urge 22's compatibility in relationships will depend on the other person's, or the soul urge 2's, patience, care and ability to understand the 22's need to create a secure foundation and have that freedom to do that, as well as the 22's need for doing good in the world. So that means they will sometimes need to break away from the relationship and do something a bit different. And that's not to say that they break up. The 2 just needs to give the 22 that space in order to achieve this. Really important. But the 22's difficult soul urge, you know, it's an important thing. It's a difficult thing to want if you're a soul urge 22. And there aren't very many soul urge 22s around. They won't always be able to give the time and energy that the soul urge 2 wants in personal relationships, meaning that but the 22's most compatible matches are the 2, the 4, the 6, and another 22. Least compatible, the 3 and the 5. Are you noticing, guys, that the 3 and the 5 find relationships quite difficult, especially long-term ones? So if the soul urge 22 understands the soul urge 2's need for love and connection and makes an effort to help achieve that in the relationship, and the soul urge 2 respects the 22's need for space in order to do something great in their life, you can be a good couple. I mean, you are a compatible number, but with any relationship, compatible or not, you need to understand each other and it needs to be worked at. Last but not least, the soul urge 2 with the soul urge 33. So the soul urge 33, they swing between being highly attentive and affectionate and focused on their relationships to needing their own space as a normal life, master number, leading their own space to pursue their own creative needs. Again, which can be difficult for the life path, the soul urge 2 to handle. So the 33 works well with the 2 in that it's naturally empathetic. It's the 33 adds up to a 6, so the family is really important to the 33. They like, but they also like to nurture their own creativity as well. So the 33 tips between the 2. The soul urge 2 wants that person in their life and to be focused on them the whole time, but the 33 will swing between like being really, really attentive to going off and doing their own thing. And the soul urge 2 needs to understand that, because it's vital for the soul urge 33 that happens. Again, because there's not very many, if any, that I've ever met soul urge 33s in this world. You have to have a really long name with lots of vowels in it in order to be anywhere near a soul urge 33. But it is possible, so it's in this video. Okay, so the 33 is most compatible with the 3, I think the 5 as well, but it's covered over by my picture, and the 9, and the least compatible with the 1 and the 8. So the soul urge 2 needs to understand that the 33 will sometimes be attentive and sometimes need space. And the 33 needs to understand that when they need space, the soul urge 2 may struggle a little bit, and they need to understand that, okay? And not judge them for that, okay? Right. So I hope you liked my video, even though I said quite a few words wrong and I kept saying life path instead of soul urge. Sorry, I'm so used to using the word life path because it is the most significant that I just kept saying it throughout the video. But when it comes to relationship, guys, it's the soul urge that is most important. All your core numbers have a bearing in a relationship. Like your life path, if you have both very, very different lessons to learn, that could possibly cause an issue in your relationship. With an expression number, if you both have very different talents, actually that could work pretty well. So you've got to think of the dynamics here. But with the soul urge is what you really, really want from life. It's, you know, they always say that relationships, you've got to both want the same thing. If you both want the same thing, or what you want is compatible, then the soul urge in relationships is very much the key number. Okay, keep that in mind. And in my core numbers video, I have a section on there showing you how to work out your soul urge number. Okay, so make sure if you don't know your soul urge that you look at that video. Okay, so please subscribe and follow me. I'm quite new to YouTube, but I really want to gain more followers and help as many people as I can. So if you liked my video, please like the video, please subscribe to my channel, click the little bell icon because that keeps you up to date with my latest content. If you want to contact me personally, you can go on my website, which is still under construction, as I say in all my videos. You can email me directly at Soul Explorer. But I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter, and all those links are going to be in the description box below. Okay, so as ever, guys, always follow your soul, always follow your inner knowing, always follow your soul's intuitive knowing. That is the most important lesson you will ever know. Whatever life path you are, always trust your soul and follow your inner knowing. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.